Welcome everyone to today's Just an Hour. I'm Betty G. I think I know everyone here. Sarup and I today are facilitating today's conversation. As you know, Just an Hour is open to all faculty and doc students. Want to put in a plug if you're working with doc students, try to encourage them to come because we'd love to see more of their participation. And wanted to stress too that Just an Hour is a collaboration among all our associate deans, which includes Meredith Toth and Veta Salova. Those of you who were here last week know we had a great conversation about inclusive teaching that Meredith and Derek facilitated. And look for some future topics that are going to be jointly facilitated among us. And just as a reminder, you can see recordings of the Just an Hour sessions on the hub. And yes, this session is being recorded, although Jake, our videographer, is very good at editing out some extraneous conversations at the very beginning.
So you're safe.
Right. Laura, you don't have to worry. I think. So anyway, and we do hope that the sessions are interactive. So please, we'd like to encourage all of you to post comments or questions in the chat. Sarup and I have some prompts that we prepared and shared with our guests today, but we always like to have additional questions and hear from you all about things that you would like to chat about. So a few announcements before we start. As I think some of you know, the Learning Planet Festival was going on this week. We had a number of activities that were either sponsored by or faculty in the college and students in the college were involved with. There are still a few coming up this afternoon. In fact, I think there's one that's overlapping with our Just an Hour session. So you should have received, if you're a faculty member, an email from Jared today that lists some of the sessions that are still to come. So take a look at that. I think there's several on campus and one or more that are hybrid. And kudos to Veta Salova and Gustavo Fishman and Kathleen King, who were involved in organizing those sessions. So second announcement, you should have seen an email from Carol, went out late one night, I think it was late Wednesday night, Thursday morning, about information related to the impact of our new federal administration's directives, specifically on federal funding for research and other projects. So we encourage you to take a look at that page. Even if you don't have federal funding now, there's information that you should consider if you're thinking about submitting a proposal. And there's also some handy lists with summaries of some of the directives that apply across the board, as well as some specific information about different departments and divisions in the federal government. So my summary is actually of all this is that we don't know a whole lot yet. Some programs have been required to pause their activities. Some units within the larger divisions have been instructed to pause. Things like travel restrictions, or actually a travel ban, has been imposed on things like NIH employees or folks funded through NIH. So it's kind of a mixed bag at this point. I'd also encourage you, in Carol's email, she mentioned that on February 7th, so 2 weeks from today, we were fortunate enough to be able to snag Carol when she was available and several members of the University Government Relations Office. They will be joining us for our Just an Hour session on the 7th to talk about what they know about some of these new policies, their implications for the university, for higher ed as a whole. Also, some information about state level responses and how that's going to affect state level policy. So we encourage you to try to get that on your calendar now and attend. I think that will be quite interesting. And last, just a housekeeping note. You've heard this reminder time and time again. Annual reviews for all full-time faculty are due on January 31st. And I'll just put in a plea from Kim Rowe in particular, which is please do not wait until the last minute to submit your materials, particularly because if you experience a technical glitch, et cetera, that puts an extra burden on Kim, who's the one who has to help sort through all those. So please try to get those reviews in prior to the last day that they're due. And yes, Amber, Kim is amazing. I know that there's no way I could have ever done this job without Kim. So, and I think as Jill mentioned, for those of you who are on PPL in the PPL meeting this morning, Kim did a fabulous job. She's been really instrumental, along with Kathy, in helping us shift all of our college records and resources to the new Workday system. So you're lucky if you don't know what Workday is. And the reason we don't have to know that much about it is because Kim and other staff members are taking care of that for us. So kudos to them. And with that, I think I'll turn this over to you, Sarup.
Thank you, Betty. Welcome everybody again. And we're very, very excited to have this session. This is a second part celebration of the session that we had earlier in the last semester, where we are now recognizing 3 faculty members for their outstanding contributions. And then, we really consider these faculty awards as critical to faculty development and advancement, and continue to seek your input through different sources like ad hoc awards committees and other ways to see how we can further align them in the near future. So our first recipient is Dr. Sam DeGangi. He's the recipient of the Global Impact Award. And he, if you know him really well, he exemplifies a strong commitment to addressing global challenges and needs. And he has worked closely with scholars and practitioners from different countries and different institutions across different disciplines. And his work is very responsive to these cultures and the values that are embedded in those. So, and our next one is Dr. Amber Benedict. She is the recipient of the Excellence in Scholarship Award. And I would introduce her when we have a question for her. But I just wanted to give you an overview of the scholars that have received these various awards. The third awardee is Dr. Laura Atkinson, and she is the recipient of the Excellence in Teaching Award. So our first speaker is Dr. Sam DeGangi. So Dr. DeGangi, we have a question for you that we had shared with you earlier, and that sort of pertains to the challenges that you may have encountered in your work that you have done, and how did you overcome some of those while you were pursuing that work?
I know, and that, well, thank you, and thank you all for coming, and to the committee. Certainly, I'm appreciative of the recognition. This question is one that I've been thinking about for a couple weeks now. There's so many directions to go with a response or with an answer to that. Because as we all know, overcoming any challenges with anything and with any project involves a wide range of, we lean on others and we look to others for support, and that is certainly the case in my response to your question, Sarup. I think of my international projects in this case in particular, and any of the challenges in any of them, whether they were just, if there is such a thing as day-to-day challenges or enormous challenges, global pandemic, political challenges, which we are now, of course, all facing to various degrees within our political climate in the U.S. Currently. I was trying to come up with what was the common thread, what was the common denominator, what was the common element across any of them that I've encountered on my projects. And this, this may sound trite, but establishing relationships in country, establishing relationships with the people on the ground in the country, the region, the continent, has been essential. And again, it's like common sense. Of course, that's what we do. That's why we're involved in global projects, in any projects. But establishing the relationship early on, during proposal phase, pre-award, hopefully then there is award, but putting that relationship, establishing that relationship early on is essential. The other components are critical as well. The various support offices within the college, within the university are essential. But the on-the-ground communication, the on-the-ground relationship has been the way that any of the projects that I've worked on have navigated the challenges. And again, as I was mentioning, whether it would be pandemic, in my most recent project, which was a USAID sponsored project in Malawi, and about a year and a half in, everything changed, as everything changed for all of us with COVID. And prior to that, a project that I think about a lot currently as we navigate the uncertainty of the U.S. political climate. I was in beginning year 2 of a USAID sponsored project, West Bank, Gaza, and we were deobligated. I learned what the phrase deobligated means, which in essence, we all know what that means. It was immediate stop. And both of those projects, having established relationship with our country-based or region-based colleagues early on was essential, and that's how we together navigated those. And then, of course, the other offices and that sort are essential as well. And I will add, I don't know, I know that, the uncertainty of what we are facing currently, we all are thinking about from many different perspectives. But in terms of sponsored product on what we are doing in students and that sort, something that we can keep in mind is that within the college and in the university, we unfortunately do have experience with navigating that. And so, that this isn't our first time in navigating it, and it can be navigated. But yeah, I don't know. That's a bit off, but of your question, but of course it's on all of our minds constantly. I have no idea, Sarup, if I answered your question or if I just
No, you did. I'm just also curious about some of the logistical changes that you encounter from being in this country to so many of the developing countries. If you could highlight some of those challenges. We've talked about, the apps that we have to use to communicate and things of that sort.
Oh, sure. Technical challenges and that sort. Oh, of course. And you have awareness. I mean, I don't know if everyone on this call have awareness, but Sarup and I have worked closely on international projects going back to what may have been ASU's first USAID sponsored project that Sarup was instrumental in obtaining his project in India. And we together navigated a lot of the challenges with differences in the technologies that we are using here and the type of access that we have in the US versus the restrictions, the limitations in other countries. And that also has carried on across the, across the projects that I've worked. And as well in our academic programs, some of the challenges that we have in ensuring that that we are enabling access and making sure that what we do is accessible to our students within country, with our colleagues. That has to be something that we plan for from the start, and that we always have in mind. With my most recent project in Malawi, that was the core of the project. It was titled Strengthening Higher Education Access in Malawi Activity. And the way that the project was designed was with, and from what we referred to as an offline first perspective. So we had to make sure that what we were doing was being designed to be accessible regardless of the technology, of the technical capabilities of our participants, and then we scaled or layered from there. And that was an essential component to overcoming the hurdle that we encountered on that project, which was the pandemic. And because that was the core of that project, it then in 2020 became the primary focus, not only for our project, but in our work with the institutions in Malawi, the higher ed institutions. The importance of ensuring access was then elevated by necessity. Yeah, I know.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Our next speaker or panelist is Dr. Amber Benedict. She received the Excellence Scholarship of Engagement Award. She connects her work with the school community and is known for her socially embedded scholarship. So the question that we had for her was that what are some of the benefits that she finds in the work that she does? And also, what are some of the most rewarding outcomes that you have, experienced through this engagement?
Thank you, Sarup. Again, it is such an honor to have this recognition and a pleasure to be with this community. So thank you everyone for being here today. I'm going to break that question down into two parts. But before I do that, I'm going to give you a little bit. There's some folks on this call that I don't know as well and may not be familiar with my research. So I'm going to give just a little bit of an overview of some of the work that I've been involved in, or what kind of questions compel me. And so my scholarship really contributes to our understanding, or my intention for how my scholarship contributes is I'm looking to really understand how general and special educators develop their shared knowledge and skill for teaching students with disabilities within inclusive environments. And this is important, as we all know, that because the better prepared teachers are, the better outcomes students with disabilities experience. And so let me give you, so that's kind of like what drives me, what motivates me. And let me give you an example of one project that it has been going on for some time, but it has been one of my, it's really just shaped me as a scholar, and I've learned so much from this experience. And so this is a project, it's a professional development innovation that has been implemented here in the Phoenix Valley. It's funded under the auspices of IES. It's a Goal 2 development grant. And its purpose is really to understand the ways that general and special educators develop their shared knowledge and shared skill for teaching students with disabilities within MTSS frameworks. And this particular professional development really targeted literacy instruction. And so in this innovation, what it looked like, it was a two-prong or two-part innovation where there was a part where the teachers learned things, like the knowledge acquisition part. And so the teachers that participated in this innovation participated in a series of online content modules designed to really deepen their knowledge for effective literacy instruction and how students with learning disabilities and English learners learn. And then the second part is an implementation part. And so we used a collaborative planning process called Lesson Study to support these teams in taking what they learned in the modules and implementing them in their daily instructional repertoire. And so it was kind of like when I was at the University of Florida, I kind of think about this like iteration as a hurricane: learn something, do something, learn something, do something. But when I got the opportunity to come to ASU, I started talking about this as a tumbleweed. And so as the teachers learned something, they do something, and we were always moving forward. And so this past academic year, we had the opportunity to implement this innovation in a random control trial with a series of educators participating within the innovation, and some who were participating in their naturally occurring professional learning experiences. And it was a lot of work. It was a year-long professional development that is wrapped up, and we're in the process of publishing. We're just kind of sitting on a mountain of data, and we've had some time now to analyze what we've collected, and we've learned that we kind of learned the things that you might expect. So teachers that participated in this intensive professional learning experience did deepen their knowledge, did deepen their skill. And one of the things that I feel really proud about is they improved their collaboration. And then next, we saw some statistically significant impacts around their students and their learning, which is what we're all aiming for. Okay, so here's an example of a project. And I'm using it as an example to share with you, one, so that you kind of know about the work that I'm involved in, but then also how I can connect it to Sarup's question. And so what she is asking me to think about is, how do I meaningfully engage the community, and what are the benefits for the community for being a part of research, educational research? And so the first thing that I kind of did was, is anyone here familiar with design-based implementation research? Or there's kind of some other ways to talk about it. Betty is, but it's where you kind of work with the community to build the innovation. And then there's these iterative cycles of revision where you use data and participant experiences to improve the product, or in my instance, the professional development. And so the first thing I really did was we looked at the national landscape of data, like where are students struggling, using the NAEP scores and then also state standardized assessments to target skills. to teach teachers. And then I did this exhaustive review of the literature to find the evidence-based practices to put in place to support teachers in learning those particular practices. But it wasn't just like national, but then also it's very much tailored to the region in which we are. I guess what I'm trying to say in the best way is that context really matters. And so here in the state of Arizona, a lot of the PD had been tailored to support the learning of not just students with disabilities, but help teachers provide instruction to students that are multilingual, which is a part of the unique profile of our state. And so we're using the characteristics of the students to support us in developing the professional development to best meet their needs. They kind of driven by the data and these iterative designs. I'm feeling, Sam, too, like I'm a little bit rambling now. There's lots of benefits.
Less than you ramble with more purpose than I ramble. So
you're so kind.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about the benefits. So like we put some metrics in place for this particular project. Like, how do you know? I ask this when I work with teacher educators, when I work with district leaders who are designing professional development. I ask this of teachers that I work with. How do you know that you are successful? Okay, so what success look like? And so in this particular innovation, we had a random control trial with pre and a post design and some metrics that had been, what's that called? They were valid and reliable. And so at the teacher and the student level, and that takes a tremendous amount of work. Sometimes there are tools you can draw from, but sometimes there's not. And so these measures tell me that it was successful, but then there were other things that really tell me in my heart that I know it was successful. There was a teacher that moved across the country she was a participant in Florida. I first ran an iteration of this in the Jacksonville School District. And she had such a successful experience or a positive experience with the professional development that she moved to ASU to implement it as my project coordinator when I had the opportunity to have this job here. And so this special educator moved across the country so that she could help other special educators deepen their knowledge and skill for effective literacy instruction, and went on to get her master's here at ASU. And so I feel like there's all kinds of things that we see in our data, like numbers, and I don't know, numbers are pretty compelling within the research arm of this, but in terms of the hearts and minds of the teachers I work with and the community that I serve, I feel really proud when I think of that teacher and her experience. And the other teachers that have been a part of this innovation that didn't know each other at the beginning of the professional development, and by the end were a really strong and collaborative team. Or those teachers that share with me that, I wouldn't have stayed in my school had I not had the experience of being a part of a team like this or had that extra support. And so those are things that are beyond, the metrics that I'm going to put in that elementary school journal publication, but really make the difference when I'm communicating with a school principal or a teacher about why being a part of an innovation like this really matters. So I think those parts, I guess, to come back to your question, are the ones that to me have been the most rewarding. Those ones that don't really fit within the design of this study.
Well, thank you. Thank you for sharing this and how you sort of shared your passion towards the question that you have in mind of creating these shared mental models, between general educators and which is so important. So thank you for sharing that and how you were able to demonstrate in your work this collaborative, shared space between the two types of educators and then related student outcomes from various sources. So thank you for that. We
Thanks, Saru.
have our third panelist speaker, Dr. Laura Atkinson, and she's the recipient of the Excellence in Teaching Award. I know Laura. I've been in her classes and seen how passionate she is in her own teaching and how she keeps her students engaged. And so we had a question for Laura. How does she create an inclusive and engaging learning environment? And how does she measure the long-term impact of her teaching on students' growth? Because I saw her immediate stuff and it was fun.
Yeah. And I appreciate everyone being here. And I'm really excited about this award because one thing I like to do, I like to teach. I actually love to teach. Okay. And I try not to advertise it too much because I'm afraid someone's going to go, well, how about take on another class then? Right. But no, no, I probably would. That's the thing. But I just love it. I've actually I was only the only other job I've done is I was a waitress for like almost 4 days. And everything else has been teaching. And whether I worked in a daycare or out in the public schools, a private school. So I really do. I just love it. And one thing and being at ASU for almost 23 years, I still continue to connect with my students. I still love it. I still want to do it. And I still want to get to know my students, and I care about my students. And I think that really has helped me because it's creating a community of learners, like maybe even practice where I'm learning from them and they're learning from me. I do not stand up and lecture all the time. That's just not how I am. So my students know that they're going to participate in class and they're okay with it. But as far as keeping them engaged is, I don't want to be bored. And if I'm bored, I know my students are bored. I just do. And so even the assignments, I do the assignments to make sure that what's gonna happen to anticipate what my students are gonna feel like when they do them, right? And a lot of times when I actually do them, I end up making some small revisions just because I'm doing what I think's in the best interest for my students and trying to make sure I'm setting them up for success. I do not change objectives to, the outcomes or anything like that. I'm just talking about like the activities and stuff. One thing, I keep them busy. They're never really idle. They're always with a partner. They're always with a group. It takes a lot to get to me. So even if they'll say something under their breath, like, oh God, a partner active, I ignore it. Just move on. I also, at the end, I want to make sure I know how they're doing and can reach out to them at the end of classes. So what I do is I do a little AEP 1, 2, 3 check in with them. That's really, really quick. And I started this in COVID and I can't let it go because it's been so effective for me and for my students. And what they do is I also spend my little money that we get on little name tents. So, because I teach so many students, I want to make sure I get their name correct. And so they get a name tent and then they get a card. And on the card for my in-person classes, they put the date. And at the end of class, they give me their name tent and their card. And the A is for academic, the E is for emotional, and the P is for physical. And the numerical score is a 1, 2, 3, 3, bigger number. Yay, things are great. 2, we're all right. 1, not doing so hot. And the students will go in and they even remind me and ask me if I saw their card. It's something that is so easy to implement, but so effective in the long run, because I look at those cards later on in the evening, and if any of my students put a 1 by academics, emotional, or physical, I actually send them a quick email and say, hey, I noticed you put a 1 here. Is there anything I can do on my end to support you? It may not even be in my class. It may be in another class or something. But Betty, which one are we on? Can I just show y'all something? Because I pulled out a couple quotes, and I want y'all, and this is just from the fall too. And I just want to share something. Do I have
think we
access?
time. I think you
Do we?
should.
It's
Yeah.
real quick. It's real quick. And
Yeah,
it kind
sure.
of, okay. So my problem is I'm not really good at pulling up stuff. You'll end up seeing pictures no, here it is. Okay. I don't know yeah, okay. Let me go back in. And I'm just really honest with my students. And I mean, it is what it is. Laura needs help. They'll help me. Okay. Can y'all see my thing? Okay. I just wanted I've done it. Now, this is for undergraduate. Okay. For my graduate courses, the numbers are a little smaller, and in person, I'm able to talk with them more. So checkup is more verbal. Okay. But for my bigger classes and for my undergraduate sync classes or I courses, this is what they do. In person, that's when they have the tent, they have the card. And I gave, I'm protecting their names, so I gave them all my pet names. So this is JJ, and I just send out, and this is the same little message I would send to all of them, but personalizing it, right? Just making sure I'm getting my numbers right. And for JJ, when I reviewed the AEP 123 card, I noticed that on the 18th, and then again on the 25th, I saw some 1s and a 1 for emotional and a 2 for physical. And so I just reached out and asked if there was anything I could do. Okay. And I always hear back from every single one of the students I reach out to. I have never not heard back. And this one says, hello, Dr. Atkinson. I appreciate the email concern. I have been struggling lately in many different areas. I'm getting through, though. I don't think there is anything specific that you could help with. But again, I appreciate the offer and support. Have a great day. Thank you. And it builds such positive rapport that when I see that person in class again, that they're actually talking more. They're actually they're feeling more comfortable about the environment. And for the sync, here's the sync one, because this is online and they have the option to fill it out they fill it out in the chat. They can send it to me directly. I don't want them to have to show it to everyone, but some students put it for everyone. And then this was Mickey and reviewed and physically. So they're not doing good physically for 2 weeks in a row. So now I'm like, oh, wow. Okay. I really need to reach out. And so this one was, I'm doing better. I just had a cold for the past 2 weeks, making me feel sluggish. Thank you so much for reaching out. Have a good day. That's Mickey. So it is really, I'll stop sharing now. And, but I also had a comment from an instructor because I shared it with the special ed faculty. One of the special ed faculty is using it and says that she's so happy that she's doing it because she didn't realize how many other kids needed support. So it's just a little thing and I do want to note that the AEP, I actually had that for a few years, even though our division now has Advancing Education Educator Prep, AEP. So I just wanted, so the same, all good acronyms, right? So, yeah. And I've taught almost every class. I think you can ask Abby Brown. But yeah, and that's what I just love teaching. And if I don't know something, guess what? I'm going to find out. I'm going to find out. And see, Abby says she has. So, yeah. So I don't know if I answered that, Saru. And mine isn't as academic as Sam and Amber's because mine's the heart of getting those students to learn. So there you have it.
Well,
Can I just
thank
ask?
you.
Oh,
Yeah, no, I
I
just
was
wanted
just going
to
to
say,
ask a follow-up. I mean, I think it's so great, Laura, that you asked students about all these dimensions of their lives. And I was just wondering, has a student ever shared something that you felt like you didn't know how to address? You know, like it
Yes.
was.
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. And yes, one of my students was sexually assaulted. And so she responded to my email that she was sexually assaulted. So, by law, I had to share that with the powers to be. And I actually emailed the student and I wanted her to hear it from me that I had to share that. And if there was anything else I could do. And she was going to the police. And actually, this just happened in the fall. The fall was a pretty busy time. And she just wanted to know if it was okay to have my number. I don't like to give my number out to students, but she wanted to know if it was okay to have my number and if she could call me after she went to the police station to report it. And so, I actually shared it with Nicole. So I followed the whole thing. But yeah, that's the thing. But yeah.
But actually, you did know how to respond because that's exactly what you should do, according to
Yeah, but you know
university
what?
policy.
At first,
Yeah.
it's just kind of, and I'm a mom and you just, oh gosh, you get so emotional about it. I'm glad no one was around, right? So yeah, and she's on her own. She has no family, here. And it's just like, oh, there was a part of me that wanted to say, why don't you come stay in my guest room overnight? This is what's going through my head, but you can't do that. You can't do that. So, but is there if I don't know how to handle it, you know what? I go straight to Erica Mitchell. I do. I've known her for so long that I'll go to Erica and say, hey, Erica, what do I do in this situation? Just because I know she knows.
Yeah. Yeah. Same here. Yeah.
Yes.
Probably everyone knows what a good resource she is, but I'll just second that. Yeah. In case anyone doesn't.
Yeah.
Very responsive, like really fast. So
yeah, yeah. And there's times you need that fast response.
do you have any questions from the audience? Do we have any questions?
I have a question for Sam.
Yes.
Sam, I am really I would love to become more involved at a global level with scholarship and building these relationships in educational research and also teacher preparation. What would you recommend to someone who would want to kind of become engaged in this type of work? Where might you start?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think about well, where did I start? And I think that asking that question is a good place to start. There's a lot of resources within the university, funding sources that we would never, or that I would never have imagined existed. I started off having, no experience in international projects or international development world or any of that sort of thing. And, one of the benefits of the university of our size, I think is that there are a lot of, again, this sounds kind of trite as well, but, there are a lot of people doing a lot of different things throughout the university. And as we all know, it's difficult to identify where are those, even the offices that support those. The pathway that I took, to to become involved in this type of work, and then something that I didn't mention, and to align, my interests and my academic experience, or what I do with my international work was not necessarily a linear path. I didn't happen upon a funding opportunity that specifically said, increasing access using innovative technologies and centered on applied behavior analysis. That was absolutely not in the RFP. And, so developing, just awareness types of relationships across the university was the pathway that I happened into. As, I mentioned that within the college, there's I'll probably use the wrong term of the office now, but the office formerly referred to as RODA, the research development, or is it research advancement? Howard Bergman's office was of great assistance early on in identifying, well, where within the university might there be a group or an individual that are working in or are looking to work outside of the US. Those types of approaches, that worked for me. And once you become, once you have that awareness, once you gain that awareness, then finding ways to fit your academic interest to those opportunities, I don't know, becomes easier. This is sort of related to what you asked, or it's a different question. But one of the challenges that I found in international development work with government agencies, with USAID in particular, is that never has the request for proposals or the funding opportunity been in direct alignment with my interests. Like I mentioned, never has it said, applied behavior analysis. In fact, those are even terms that, that many of the USAID competitions, they wanted nothing at all to do with that. They weren't looking to advance, my higher education interests necessarily, but looking at how that might align was the route. Because initially I was discouraged in that, I wasn't finding, I'd read all of the RFPs or the funding opportunities that would be distributed from all of the lists that I would sign up for, and none of them were like a fit, And so I guess you have to make that fit. That's the piece that took me a while to figure out, because I kept looking for something. Oh, where's like an opportunity that directly aligns? And I couldn't find those. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Does that make sense? Yeah. Maybe it makes sense. Or
Yeah,
not.
it does. That's really helpful. So
Yeah, because I would just sit back and I'm not sit back, but I'd look at all the opportunities and we get them, we receive them, you receive email. I'm like, well, where could I find that? But I never had one that was like, yeah, this is a direct match. Yeah. I don't know whether Sarup, you have same experience, you have experiences.
Yeah.
There's not ever a match, right?
No. I just more recently, it's like Glenn Goodman would just contact, because he looked at the work that we've been doing. So he contacted, some faculty members from criminology, others from social work, and then asked me, because my work was in juvenile delinquency, on violence prevention, which is a little bit far-fetched work for me because mine is also like ABA, special ed, creating these environments of learning and things. But I joined those meetings and I, sort of became a participant in further refining those RFPs and so forth. So So I think that's a great advice, Sam.
Yeah, I hope that helps.
Any more questions? What do you guys do for fun, right? That's another one that we wanted to know. You're not just involved doing this work.
Things. I like to make things. I make wreaths. I make pictures. Yeah, I have to, there's a creative side to me that has to come out. And if I don't let it out, that's when I go kind of a little insane. So Mark, I know he's like, yeah. Next, what do you?
I study the behavior of chickens most recently.
What?
As some of you may have heard from me before, or from Amanda. Our house happened to have a chicken coop and a chicken run when we bought it. I thought, oh, okay, behavior, animal behavior, a big part of what, I kind of live and breathe. I thought, well, put some chickens in that. Fascinating. So yeah.
Sam, no, like for fun.
Yeah, no, that's fun.
That is
it
fun,
is.
right,
It's
Sam?
crazy.
He knows more about
I have
chickens right
no
now than
experience.
anybody else on this thing, including me.
So
Yeah, no,
Sam,
it's
do you
crazy fun.
apply ABA sort of
Yes.
principles and practices? No,
Try
you
to.
know.
Well,
No.
early on, at first, so like about a year and a half-ish into this now, I had read some stuff that, the things that we use in our courses. Skinner used pigeons. That's close by with chickens, right? And so I read all these things about people who did all these different things with functional analysis of their behavior, and yeah, like always thinking about it. But early on, what I thought could be accomplished, yeah, I don't know. Maybe they're impacting my behavior.
Are you teaching them
yes.
things?
What's that?
When you
I'm
say
teaching them.
accomplished, are
Or
you
are they
teaching them things?
Or are they teaching me? Are they modifying my behavior? That's the part that I think after a year and a half-ish, yeah, that's what I think is happening.
So see, Sam, I would be making hats for the chickens to wear.
Will you please make our chickens a hat? I need that more than anything, and I didn't even know that I did.
That's a great idea.
Okay, Amber, now you have to add in here, and I think we've got kind of connecting themes, so I'm curious to hear what you will share.
I don't know. I'm thinking I have some small children who would love to come see the chickens. They are, so my free time is we go for walks or go to the park. Public libraries are great, but a petting zoo or the zoo or some of the aquariums these days are the fun.
And hopefully stuff like that always will be fun.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Erica, you have chickens too? You just shared?
Yeah, we've gone through several rounds of chickens, but they're such good pets and eggs are expensive. So,
Mm-hmm.
but they're really cool. Like when you do sit down and kind of watch their behaviors, like, and I've had to like Google things because I'm like, what are they doing in the dirt? They take dirt baths and it is so cool to watch. And then we introduced ducks into our family. And yeah, that's just really neat. They're really cool animals and they're super friendly and they're fun to snuggle.
How many chickens do you all have? What, Sam and Erica?
5 hens. We had a turkey that had an unfortunate demise. And then we had 3 ducks as well.
Well, if this is being monitored by the city of Tempe code enforcement,
I live in Globes.
No.
I have to be careful with my answer, in particular around whether there are 2 roosters or not. So
Ooh,
yeah.
roosters. Ooh, yes.
And multiple, Erica, multiple layers or generations. We have that going on. Gen 1 behaves a certain way, and then the second round that we brought in, they have their own kind of thing. A lot of the phrases, that we always knew, like pecking order, that is a thing. Who'd have known it came from, where would you think? From chickens. Yeah, there's all sorts of social things that,
Well, I will just add, I am a chicken mom too, so I can relate to everything that you're talking about, including snuggling. We're down to just 3 now who are almost 9 years old. So these 3 have reached senior chickenhood. But yeah, thanks. Actually, just thanks everyone for sharing this. This is so much fun. It was such a fun session. And to end on chicken behavior, just, I don't know, seems perfect. Just so Friday afternoon. But thanks to all of you for sharing the great work that you're doing. It just makes me feel really, really good to have such a community of people doing such great things with such concern and care for everyone involved. So I think we'll wrap up now. You just got 1 more minute to go.
Yeah.
Want to encourage you all. Next week, we're going to have a session focusing on our visiting scholars, facilitated by Gustavo Fishman. So it'll be a nice opportunity to hear from some folks that we don't usually even get to meet, given how dispersed we are. So thank you all again. Sarup, anything to add before we wrap up? Ooh,
No.
Did we lose Sarup? Oh,
No,
there you
I'm
are.
here.
Yeah.
Thank you again. Yes.
Thanks to all of you. Have a great
Thanks,
afternoon.
all.
Thank you, Sarup and Betty.
Weekend.
Happy Friday.
Sam and Amber.
Happy Friday.
Be
in touch,
Yeah.
Bye,
Laura.
everyone. Thank you.
Okay, thank you,
Thanks
Mark.
again.
You bet. Thank you.
Thanks, Laura.
Bye-bye.